Hello and welcome to another podcast and video, or I said podcast first and video, but more on that in a bit. But a podcast and video about team news as we look ahead to double game week 29. My name is Joe, and as ever, I'm joined by Neale, Fantasy Football Scouts editor and resident press conference guru. Neale, how are you?
Not too bad, Joe. Yeah. Welcome of the break that we just had, but back with a vengeance now. Today we've had as we often are after international breaks, there's a lot of flags to clear up, but seems to be more high-profile ones than usual this week.
Yes,
and we've got the highest profile of the highest profiled players, I think.
Yes, definitely, and I could tell it was busy because when I was doing this sort of roundup picture at the end, I ran out of space, and I had to remove Dendoncker. So apologies, Dendoncker fans. I removed him for someone more high profile. So before we move on, I just want to alert people to some news we put out early. I don't know if everyone saw this. Hopefully they did. FPL Generals Podcast, hugely popular. It was on The Athletic. He'd stopped doing that from last week. So he's sort of looking for a new home, and he's found that home, a Fantasy Football Scout, which is great. So that means every week we're going to get the FPL Generals wonderful podcast. So I don't know about you, Neale, but I think it's one of the best out there because it sums up everything, what we're doing now, the captaincy, the transfers you want, the strategy, the watch list, everything in half an hour. And it's quite something. It's just him on his own, half an hour. He does a whole game week, and it's an absolute must listen. So I'm very pleased he's here. I'm a bit of a fan of that.
Me too.
Okay, let's move on. Just before we come to the first match, which is on Saturday midday, it's City against Liverpool. I just want to welcome those who joined us in the live chat. Good few hundred of you. Thanks for joining us. Do press that like button. Do subscribe. Tim Felkin, Razvin, Eric, Natasha, Immortal, Treknique, Jojo, Gavin, FPL Sparta, Choco, David James, FPL Rank Chaser, Domido, and many more. Thanks so much for joining us. I hope we give you some good team news for the players that you're looking to bring in or keep. Okay, first of all, we got City against Liverpool. So high profile. You don't get more high profile than Haaland. Yeah. His dad was giving some injury updates earlier in the week, but we were still a bit none the wiser. So what has Pep been saying about Haaland?
Well, if you were to predict what he was going to say, you would have probably guessed correctly because we've had all the classic Guardiola bingo phrases like we'll see, and we've still got training to come today. So, yeah, if you're not aware, Haaland's got a groin problem. Pulled out of the Norway squad with this. And his father said last week that he was touch and go for the Liverpool game. He's been getting treatment in Barcelona, but he's now back in the UK. And Pep this afternoon said he's recovering. They've got training, the last one of the week at 4 o'clock. So they're going to see how he feels. The player himself said yesterday that he feels good. However, we did get a glimpse of the training ground yesterday in a bit of footage from Sky Sports, I think. And he wasn't sighted. Now, there's, of course, possible reasons for that. He might have been late onto the training pitch. He might have been getting a bit of rehab work done inside the training centre and then joined them later in the day. But obviously with Champions League doubleheader coming up and many other games as well, league games coming up between now and the end of the season, FA Cup semi-final as well, you do wonder whether they'd take the risk on him. I've not got him in the predicted lineup. And despite Guardiola being sort of positive, I think, with that quote. More positive than I thought. Okay. I still think he's a big doubt for this one. Okay,
so that's bad news for those holding on to Haaland, particularly those looking to bench boost, because, of course, Haaland, like the Spurs and Arsenal assets, are good single game week players to field on a bench boost. So if he's not playing, that sort of diminishes a little bit. So they might have a bit of a decision to make. Alvarez will be replacing him, I presume, just like for like.
Well, he could, but the thing is, he was representing Argentina in the international break, and they were the last ones to play. They were in action in the early hours of Wednesday morning, and this is a Saturday lunchtime kickoff. So I don't think there's a guarantee that he starts. It could be Bernardo through the middle. It could be De Bruyne playing as like a false nine. Okay. So I don't think there's a certainty that Alvarez starts. There's one other bit of injury news from City, not really an injury. Phil Foden's got appendicitis and he's had a surgery on that. So he's now out for 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay, so he's definitely out there. Meanwhile, with Liverpool, they've had a few injured players sort of drifting back. I keep seeing Luis Diaz in sort of not quite training pictures, but sort of walking in and out of buildings with the team, looking training-ish. But yeah, so is Diaz back? And what else for some of the other ones? I think Darwin Núñez as well might have been a slight doubt.
He was, yeah. He's no longer a doubt. He couldn't. This is Darwin. He couldn't train for 2 or 3 days this week, according to Klopp, because of the cut he got against Madrid. But he's been back in training, so he's in contention. As for Diaz, yeah, he's been partly in training, so not ready for a play and comeback yet. Klopp mentioned the Leeds game, which I believe is Gameweek 31, as a possible return date for Diaz. So he's partly in training.
Okay,
he's going to get more full training in the weeks to come. So possibly Arsenal in Gameweek 30, but more realistically, Leeds in 31. Other injury news from Liverpool is not really too important from a FPL perspective. Ramsey's out, Thiago's still out, Keita's out. Tsimikas seems to be fine. He's been cited in training, but I think apart from that, there was a little bit of a stomach bug going around according to Klopp, but that's now in the past.
Okay, let's move on to Arsenal against Leeds. So mixed news for Arsenal, really. I think they've got. I think I've seen some training pictures. I saw most of the sort of key players in there, but I didn't see Saliba in those pictures. Is he in or out for this game?
No, he's out with this one. There were suggestions that it might be a season-ending one, but Arteta was saying that it's hopefully not that. It's a back problem, so it's tricky to kind of remedy because he's got to gradually load weight onto that and see how Saliba recovers. But he's not going to be back for Gameweek 29. We know that. So he's out with this one. Same with Tomiyasu and El Neni, who are long-term ones. Okay. And Nketiah, I don't think's been cited in the training ground. There was again footage yesterday of the training ground, and no Nketiah in full training. Tierney he came off with a knock for Scotland, and Partey was as well. He wasn't risked for Ghana's second AFCON qualifier, but he was training. So Ed Martinelli's was there, Odegaard, Saka, all the big names.
I noticed them in the pictures. With Leeds, though, they are it's worst time for them. They're playing at the mighty Arsenal at the moment, and very depleted ranks, I understand, at Leeds.
Yeah, and two key players really, two of the sort of better players of recent weeks and months. So, or three if you can count Tyler Adams, who was out already and is still out. So he's a sort of defensive midfielder, was a bit of protection. He's out along with Forshaw and Dallas. Definitely out of the first Gameweek 29 match for Leeds are Max Wober and Willie Gnonto. They've got hamstring and ankle injuries respectively.
Okay.
Gracia couldn't say exactly what the timeline's going to be. It could be another week, could be 2 weeks, could be more. So there's a slim chance it could be back for that second Gameweek 29 fixture, but I wouldn't count on it. But yeah, sort of three big absentees there for Leeds, which may encourage people to hold on to at least some of their Arsenal assets, I think.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's why I bring that up, really, because in the clamour to get double game week players, I've seen people considering removing their Arsenal players. Even Saka, who did so well last time out and is on penalties. But yeah, that's still in consideration. But I do think, I mean, I've got Saka. I'm holding on to him.
Me too.
He's not going anywhere, especially if he's against a Leeds B team, which is probably the C team. But let's move on.
Well, on top of that, actually, as well, Rodrigo and Sinisterra, they are fit in terms of injury free, but Gracia said they're not in the best condition, so they're probably not going to start either.
Okay, right. Bournemouth. Okay, so Gary O'Neil, we don't tend to get too much concrete stuff from him, but we might have some injury news there from Bournemouth.
Yes, we did get a bit of definitive news from Gary O'Neil. Tavernier's fit, Zabani's fit, Lerma's fit, so they were the three flag players. I think that just leaves Stanislas, but he's been a big part player anyway, so pretty much a full squad for Bournemouth.
Okay, and Fulham, they've got a couple of key players suspended, though, for this one, haven't they?
They do, yeah. Mitrovic and Willian's just a one-game ban because it was a denial of a goal-scoring opportunity, deliberate handball. So he'll be back in game week 30. When Mitrovic is going to be back, I'm not sure. It's a 3-game ban at the very least, but we expect that to be increased because there was a match official involved in that violent conduct incident. So they're both out of this one. We didn't get anything really in terms of injury news from Silva, other than that he's injured. Sorry, his international players have come back injury free.
Okay.
Previously flagged were Duffy, Kozawa, and Cabano, but Cabano has been seen on the training ground this week.
Okay, so he could be back. I don't think he's going to be in too many teams, especially those bench boosting, unless they are lottery winners. Brighton against Brentford. This is all about flights, isn't it? Flights from Curacao, Australia, Japan, all over the world. Brighton's multinational side have been travelling back. Are they okay?
They seem to be. The injury news is fairly uneventful, really. It's Sarmiento was the only addition to the injury list. He's going to be out for possibly the rest of the season, 6 to 8 weeks, with a fractured metatarsal. So he joins Lallana and Moda and being out. Lamptey's fine. He should be back for at least one of the Gameweek 29 games. So yeah, in terms of this weekend, I haven't seen the full press conference yet. I have seen a quote from De Zerbi saying it will be difficult for his return in internationals this weekend. So amongst that contingent are Mitoma, who's come back from Japan.
Yeah.
And McAllister. Sorry. McAllister.
Yeah.
McAllister from Argentina. And Estupinan, actually, from Australia. So 3 of them. McAllister was the last one in action. He was playing for Argentina in South America in the early hours of Wednesday morning. Estupinan's and Caicedo have had the longest flight back because they've been in Australia. Yeah. Their game was, I think, 12 hours before McAllister's, but they've got a longer flight. I think it's like a full day of travelling with a stopover. Unless Brighton have really minted and got a private jet.
Right, well, I don't think so. An Airfix model of a jet, maybe.
Yeah. There's obviously a mite of concern. I'll try and get that quote in exact form later on and transcribe it on the website. But there may be a little bit of game time doubt in terms of minutes maybe later in the game, but he can't rest all of his international players. He's going to have no team left.
McAllister played 50 minutes in that second game.
He did.
So he should be fine. And also worth noting that Estupinan took a penalty for his country. And that's led to, I've seen some speculation that he's like second in line to McAllister for penalties. That is not the case. Pascal Gross will be on penalties if McAllister's not there. Brentford, how are they?
They are pretty good, I think. Yeah, this was yesterday. Thomas Frank gave his briefing. I think Mads Roslev's fine. He was at a touch and go before the international break. So that just leaves Janelt, Aja, Lewis Potter, and Baptiste, who's suspended. They're the 4 red flags. Hickey took a knock for Scotland, but the Brentford website says all the internationals came back unscathed, so we assume he's fine.
Okay, I had a bit of a coughing fit there. It's probably in excitement and anticipation of the main reason people are here. Crystal Palace face Leicester. Is Nathan Ferguson fit for this game?
No, he's not.
So those guitars, they stay in place. I'm not going to get the guitar out.
You might get them down next week. He's out. Now he's been out for. I'm sure you're going to quote that tweet, Joe, later on. But yeah, Ferguson's been out for the best part of 3 years. Really, he's been back in training for a while, working on his match fitness. I think he's played for the under-23 side, but he's got a fresh injury, as has Chris Richards. So they're going to be out of this one. Hodgson says they might be back next week though.
Yeah.
So we could yet see Ferguson this season. Better news for the goalkeepers. So they had young Joe Whitworth between the posts against Brighton, and Arsenal. But Guite is back fit and Johnston back fit. So they're going to have a senior goalie available for this weekend. No word on Joachim Andersen, who's had a calf problem, but he's been seen in training, so we think everything's fine with him.
Right, yeah. Yes, that was, we were, one of the Fantasy Football Scout team, Johnny, pointed out that Roy Hodgson signed Nathan Ferguson. And now Roy Hodgson is back managing, and during the time he was away, he believes that Nathan Ferguson played once. So he's
as
played
a substitute.
one game in the non-Roy Hodgson era. So this could be a good omen for Ferguson in the future, hopefully. Leicester, how are they for this?
Not too bad, yes. Some positivity from Leicester. So Evans has been back in training, although hasn't played, I think, for about 6 months. So maybe eased back in. Christensen's back in training as well. He could be involved. Harry Souttar's come back with a knock, but he should be fine. Dennis Pratt again should sugar off a dead leg. So 4 players who are possibly back. Still out are Tielemans and Justin. Tielemans has had a bit of a setback. Just as he's on the cusp of a return, so he's out. The news people are probably after, which wasn't addressed, was the goalkeeping situation.
Okay.
So I haven't watched Rodgers' presser all the way through. However, there was no obvious lines from it. And previously, so 2 weeks ago, when Everton was promoted to the starting lineup at the expense of Ward, Rodgers said that he's going to get a run of games. So I think the spot is now Everton's to lose. And Ward got a lot of games before he was demoted. So I'm assuming Everton will get a fair crack of the whip now, which might seem till the end of the season. So if you got Ward, then definitely get rid, I think.
Okay, so once again, if you're bench boosting, for those bench boosters there, if you've got Wards, that's probably a priority transfer out. Plenty of good goalkeeping options, though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, in fact, we've done a few articles on that, the best goalkeeping pairs, because for once, because most people in the past have had a set and forget goalkeeper and then fodder on the bench. But we're probably looking in pairs now for the rest of the season, because you've got blank game week 32, you've got bench boosts. So, there's an article on the site there about goalkeeping pairs if you want to check that out.
Kepa and Steele for me, which once again sounds like a 70s detective show.
Anything with Steele on the end.
Anything with Steele, yeah. Sanchez and Steele is the ultimate 70s detective show.
Alisson and Daniel Everson sound like a couple you've met on holiday, I think. Isn't it?
That's true, yeah. Less, well, maybe some crime. Nottingham Forest play Wolves. Chris Wood, my hero from a couple of seasons ago, I nailed his hat trick or his brace, whichever it was, but certainly was quite propelled me up the ranks quite well. Chris Wood, he's going to miss the remainder of the season, I understand.
He is, yeah. One of the few things we can say for definite about Nottingham Forest team news. He's out for the rest of the campaign. He'll join Bolly, Henderson, Bianconi, and Richards on the sidelines. Okay. So there's 10 Forest players beyond those who are yellow flagged.
Wow!
And given what we know about Cooper, any of them could play this weekend. Any of them could miss out. Aurier, Andre Ayew, Scarpa. They've picked up injuries over the break. Same with Hennessy, I think, as well. Brennan Johnson came back from Wales without kicking a ball. Now, in classic Cooper style, he said, we're not sure how long they're going to be out for or what their availability is. Brennan's not back to full fitness, he says. Now, we heard very, very similar comments before game week 28.
That was it. It's now infamous because you basically said he's going to play because the manager says he's not.
Yeah, so, this won't be a shock to... I mean, Forest fans will have told me about this before the start of the season, but Premier League fans are witnessing this and new. And he's now definitely bottom of my list for trustworthiness.
Okay.
And will remain there. More positive news. Kiyani's back in training. See with Taiwo Awani as well. Nick Carty's back, of course. He's already been back for a while. Dennis seems to be injury free. He took a knock against Newcastle, but he's been training. Yates has been in training as well. He came off with a shoulder problem in game week 28. Again, Cooper said he's not sure if he's going to be fit, even though he's been visibly seen in training.
Yeah, he's playing then.
Yeah, yeah. And McKenna should be nearing a return from his, I think, original timeline. So 15 players flagged in total. Only 5 of them definitely out. And any number of those 10 could turn up in 29. Okay,
well, they play twice. So once again, there is actually interest in Forest at the moment for some of their assets, maybe on the bench boost. Wolves, how are they set up as they face Forest?
Yeah, they've got a few players still out. So Hwang still out with a hamstring problem, and Chiquinho and Kalajic as well long term. Johnny's suspended. Someone who isn't suspended is Nunes. So he was just sent off without setting foot on the pitch in game week 28 for a bit of touchline dissent, but he's had that ban overturned, so he's available. Semedo is available well. He came off with a knee problem against Leeds, but he's fine. Boubacar Traore is now match fit after a return to training, and Bueno could be back as well. They're now 3.8 million budget defender. He is 90% sure. So if there was a 90% flag in FPL, then he would have that on him. But he's now back in training after a month out and should be near the squad this weekend.
So a light yellow flag for him. Chelsea against Villa. Villa visits Chelsea. Villa in good form at the moment and a double. And same with Chelsea. They got a double. So, but Reece James was sort of of interest to masochists who want an injured player in their team. But is he actually fit for this one?
We think so. He should be, and where there's a should, there's still a flag in FPL. So he and Havertz were the subject of the two more positive updates from Potter this afternoon.
Okay.
Potter said that Reece has had the last 2 training sessions with us, so providing there's no reaction, he should be available. So that's good. Kai Havertz has had a fever, but he's recovered now, so I think the flag's come off him. Less positive news elsewhere. Sterling and Fofana are going to miss this weekend's game, but could be back for the second Gameweek29 fixture. Mount's only ready for bench duty, so he is injury-free, but he's going to be a substitute this weekend. Pulisic has come back with a heavy cold, so he's a doubt. Broja's out for the season. Thiago's still out, and Azpilicueta's still out. So still plenty of flags there, but probably the 2 names our fantasy managers are interested in, Havertz and James. Yeah, looks pretty good.
Okay. Aston Villa, they've got a few injury problems as well going into this. Particularly Matty Cash is out, I understand.
He is, he's going to be out for 2 to 3 weeks with an injury he's sustained with Poland. I think it's on his calf.
Yeah.
Coutinho's still out as well. He should be nearing a return, but he's not quite ready to return. So those are the only 2 injured players. Dendonker's back. He played in a friendly over the break, and Kamara should be in the squad if he gets through today in his session unscathed. So I think that's just the 2 red flags now for Villa.
Right, yeah, as I said, will be a lot of interest for those 2 teams with the double game week. More doubles, but we're only covering the first game. We can't give the injury news for the second game because obviously they haven't played here. We don't know what's going to happen. So West Ham are at home. They've got 2 home games this game week. They face Southampton first off, so this looks the best of their fixtures. But there's a few doubts at West Ham.
Yeah, so there's 2 pre-existing ones, Fabianski and Antonio. Fabianski had, I think, a fractured cheekbone. Antonio had a calf tightness. I think they've both been seen in training over the break, and Moyes was optimistic of Fabianski before the break. Anyway, there's 3 new ones. Emerson Palmieri, who some people might have been considering because he's 4 million and he's been starting most games. He's got an illness. Okay. Aguerd's got a hip niggle, and Scamacca's got a sore knee. So I think they're all 75% flagged. But at least Moyes names this time rather than just saying...
Yeah, and also it's the first appearance on the team news for the phrase grumbly hip. So he's got a grumbly hip, whatever that is.
Grumbly hip.
Southampton, lots of long-term ones there. And it's probably still the case, isn't it?
It is, but a bit of news on Livramento, who's been out, I think, for almost a year, and a full calendar year. He is now back in partial training, so he's going to rejoin full team training very soon. So we might see him in the coming weeks. Wow. Larios is out for the season, though. Bella Kotchap's joined them as well. He's got, I think, a dislocated shoulder, so he's out. 2 fresh concerns, Salisu and Adams, both returning from their respective countries with little niggles. They're going to be assessed before the weekend.
Okay, and moving on to Sunday, I think we're moving on to here with Newcastle hosting Manchester United. We'll go with the away side first, this one, because the big news really is Rashford, a key captaincy candidate. We've seen him on the training pitch. He joined in full training, we think, today, but you're about to tell me whether he did or not. Yeah, I've got the captain's armband on him, and I'm sure many people do, but should I remove it or should I keep it on him? Will he play?
Well, I've got it on him as well, and I think I'll keep it on him. This was quite a positive update from Ten Hag, certainly better than the one we got on Haaland. Ten Hag said he's got good hope that Rashford's going to be fit. He trained. He had to do some treatment at first and then some individual training, but today he has joined the group. So they've also got an extra day as well. So this game's not till Sunday, so they've got another day of training. So that should hopefully stand him in good stead. And of course, he was fit enough to go to New York on his jollies. So I don't think there's that much doubt. I think it was a tactical breather.
Yeah.
That obviously he was out of the England squad, but Ten Hag even mentioned that today. He said it was a good thing that he wasn't with England because he's played in most of the games.
Yeah.
Since he's been appointed. Same with Bruno Fernandes as well, who unfortunately did get 2 lots of run-outs with Portugal. But it sounds pretty positive on Rashford. It also sounds positive on Martial. Remember him? He could be back in a matchday squad. He's been training now for 2 weeks. So he could be threatening Weghorst's position, I guess, pretty shortly before succumbing to another injury, almost certainly. Definitely out of this one are Casemiro, who's suspended. He'll be back in, I think, Gameweek 31. Eriksen's still out, but he's nearing a return. And Van der Beek and Garnacho are longer-term injuries. Sabitzer was unused from Austria on Monday night. I think he had a bit of a knee niggle. Varane, Ten Hag previously said that he expected him to be fit for this one. Didn't get a fresh update on him, but hopefully he should be fine.
And as for the home side, Newcastle, I know that earlier in the week there was some doubts over Botman with an illness. And Nick Pope was, of course, absent for England. So we don't know. What's the latest for them and the rest of the squad?
Yeah, it looks good for those two. Pope is back in training. So is Botman. It was a thigh problem for Pope. It was food poisoning for Botman. Howe said today that the signs are good for Pope, and then he said that Botman should be fine. So, yeah, there was another should, but I think it's just semantics, really. I think they're both going to be fine. Joe Linton's available as well. He's back from suspension. Anthony Gordon's nearing a return. He's been doing parts of training. So I think that just leaves Emil Kraft and Almiron. Red flagged Almiron. There was suggestions that he may be back sooner from this, but he's not going to be any sooner than the timescale given, which I think is the end of April. So he's going to be out for some time.
Okay, and final game of the first matches of the double game week is Everton hosting Tottenham's Hotspur, who are without Conte. So as a Kane owner, I'm hoping it's time to unleash the Kane on this one. But yeah, let's go with the home side first then. Calvert-Lewin is always the first question, isn't he, for Everton? Will he be back? Will he not be?
No, he's not back. He's on the grass, but he's not in team training, which was the case 2 weeks ago. Hasn't changed. I think it's just him and Townsend who are out. I think everyone else is fine because I think Coleman shrugged off an injury very quickly over the international break, and Patterson was back playing for Scotland as well. So it's just Calvert-Lewin and Townsend who are red flag. As for Spurs, a lot more to report there. On top of the departing manager. So Lloris is back in training. He's been in a behind closed door game, I think, over the break. Perisic is fine as well. So he was a concern, I think, on Tuesday. He came off for Croatia, but just a kick, going to Stellini, and he's all right. Not so good elsewhere, though. Davies and Royale, I think, are out for 6 weeks with hamstring and knee injuries, respectively. Sessignon still out. Bentancur still out. Basuma still out. And Richarlison, I think, is going to struggle to make the Everton game.
Okay.
He's not seriously hurt, so he could be back soon. But 6 players, I think, out of the Everton match.
Wow. Okay. Right. Well, I'll put the team news roundup slide up. So as I said, I sort of run out of space, so I went then Donker deep. So I removed him. So fit to play Semedo, Tavernier, Awini, Guita. And of course, Sam Johnston as well is fine, but I didn't have enough room for him. Perisic is fit to play. Lloris should play. But he's certainly fit to play. Pope is fit to play. Botman as well, even though there was that should there. I think he's more on that side than questionable. Darwin Núñez should be fine. Reece James is fine to play. Havertz as well is fine. Mason Mount is fine to play, but only as a sub. And Lamptey is back as well. Meanwhile, there's a few questionables here. I put Bueno there for Wolves. I wasn't sure whether to put him in. Could have gone any of these sort of will play, might play, not sure. Evans, fitness, and Christensen. I've just put fitness there for them. Kamara, his foot. Diaz, fitness. He's a major doubt or definitely out, I would say. But I put him in there because you never know. You never know. I mean, I've seen him running around on a training pitch. But Haaland is questionable, I guess. Rashford is questionable, I guess. But we think that Rashford's going to start and Haaland's not. Is that right? Do you reckon?
I'd probably go on that.
Yeah, okay. We've got Emerson, Skamaka, Aguard. I put Grumbly Hip because it's the first appearance of Grumbly Hip, and I just thought that looked good. And Che Adams has got an injury; he's a bit questionable. Tielemans, Calvert-Lewin, Calvert-Lewin's out, but you never know. But he's between out and major doubt, definitely out probably. Meanwhile, Nonto is out, Wood's out, Webber's out, Tyler Adams, Saliba, Matty Cash, Huang, Coutinho, William and Mitrovic are suspended. Almiron, he's still got his injury. Foden, Sterling, and I have left off players because I've run out of space. But there's a hell of a lot of players out, a hell of a lot of players who've confirmed to play, a hell of a lot of questionable players. So that's your team news roundup. That's a really long one, probably about double the last one we did in the blank game week when everyone was like just sort of okay to play and there was half the teams.
Yeah.
But I think we've got everything there. Good luck, everyone, for the game week. Good luck with your transfer decisions. Good luck with it, whatever you do in the double game week, whether you use a chip or not. And do remember to press that like and subscribe button. Neale, thanks a lot for joining me. Good luck with your game week.
And to you, Joe. Bye-bye.